Welcome to another edition of the Logically Thinking Podcast, and today we're talking about the PlayStation. So folks, welcome to another episode of Logically Thinking, and man, it's been way too long since I've done an episode, and I think I promised that I was going to be doing consistent episodes last time on the show, and that just didn't happen, but hey, I finally had the opportunity to do one, and when I have an opportunity to do something, I do it. Now, unfortunately, this episode will not have the third part of my interview with Sean Montgomery from Beyond the Name Tag Productions and WW Studios, but I promise I will have that third and final part of the interview broadcasted right here on the podcast airwaves. Can you really call this airwaves? I guess if you're listening to it on an FM transmitter, sure, Bluetooth waves. Anyways, we will get that part of the interview up and running, but this episode, we're going to talk about the debut of the Sony PlayStation and what effect it had on my life as well as three of my friends. I actually had an opportunity to sit down with a couple people right before the WWE SummerSlam pay-per-view and talk about this system, the PlayStation. So no more blabbing, let's get right into that discussion. Alright guys, welcome to another edition of Logically Thinking, and of course we got an even bigger panel here. This time we got three other people with me. It just keeps getting bigger here. Who do I have with me starting on my left?
What side is that?
That's your side, damn it.
It's the second right-hand side.
The second
other
right. Gotcha. You got your little brother, Matt Murtis, here.
Who's been on before. And then next to him we have, toothpick and all.
Yes, Rick, who has been here a few times, known Mike since early high school.
And
has no last name.
Sean, who is Logically Thinking Virgin. This is first podcast.
Yes, virgin, but the rape will begin shortly.
Busting that
That'll go wrong with Tumblr.
So we are gathered today in the dark recesses of the Gamer Logic Studios.
Holy matrimony.
Yes.
It's actually pretty well lit, to be honest.
In this part.
Light.
In this part. You got to be careful, though. Yeah. Blair Witch is in the other corner over there. It's a dangerous place. But we've gathered here to talk about the release of the original PlayStation console. And we figured we'd pick PlayStation because out of all of us here, Sean, that was like your first own console, wasn't it?
Yeah, I started that.
Way to make us feel like old men, by the way.
Sorry.
Yes.
By the way, for those of you that don't know, I'm 22. I'm very young.
These whippersnappers and their 64 bits.
My dad actually brought that home one time. We moved here from Tennessee, and we were waiting for school to start, and me and my sister were sitting in that apartment bored, not doing anything, and he's like, hey, I bought you this video game system. And it came with like the demo disc of a whole bunch of different Sony games.
Now, not to interrupt, but did it come with the demo of Parappa the Rapper?
Yes!
Yes!
That game is
Another one I never played.
amazing!
But you in the mud.
You at least played the demo of...
I did play the demo. Oh, for some background for people, when we were talking, coming up with ideas for a podcast, I mentioned PlayStation. And I think I mentioned one of the previous podcasts that I always felt bad because I had an N64 with a ton of games. And for whatever reason, I asked my parents to buy a PlayStation, and I played like a grand total of 5 or 6 games total on that thing. They wasted so much money getting me that I hardly played it. So everyone's talking about all these games, and I know the mainstream games, and I've played demos of them, but my selection of PlayStation games, owned or played, is abysmally low.
So most of the time you'll just hear us screaming, what? When Rick's
Yeah.
like, yo, I'm going
Yes.
to play that game.
Now, the nice thing is I actually have a list of every PlayStation game released, and I'm going to go through them and randomly just...
Oh, you're not going to go one by one?
No.
I'm
I'm gonna pick like probably the most popular ones and just grill you and see if you've played them, and then these two
Okay.
guys can help grill me as well. But
Sure.
Now, okay, so you said your dad just kind of picked it up out of random for you?
Yeah, it wasn't really, like, he didn't really, tell us that he was going to do it. It was kind of just like a surprise.
So now, is your dad a gamer? Did he?
A little bit. Actually, we sold them already, but he has some of the old school PC games that come on like 24 floppy disks.
Oh, okay. Okay, so he was more...
I loved Elder Scrolls, and I still have in the box the original one that before they put it in stores.
Oh,
when
nice.
We were at a Chicago
Was that
computer
Arena?
convention. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My dad came home with like 6 copies. Like, why do you have 6 boxes? Like, I don't know, they're free. So we still have some, and it came out about 12 to 15. They were the 3.25 inch.
Yeah, it's the I want to say mine were the bigger ones. The ones that he had were the like big.
Yeah, mine weren't the
discs.
floppy ones, but yeah, I still got them somewhere. Great
Wow.
game.
The semi-hard disc.
Yeah, the semi-hard, not quite the flaccid discs. Discs with
dicks.
With Ness.
And now, Rick, what about you? What was PlayStation like happening to you? Did your parents ever buy you one? Did you buy one?
They did buy me one. It was for Christmas. I remember that because I was playing it Christmas Day, and it came with the demo disc.
Now, did you ask for it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I feel guilty about it. I remember the demo disc had some side-scrolling spaceship shoot 'em up game.
Kind of
Like Gradius.
Yeah.
Anhinder?
Sure, I don't know.
Okay.
I remember what you're
And
talking
it had
about.
a demo of Metal Gear Solid. The main reason I wanted that system was Metal Gear Solid
Okay.
and Final Fantasy VII.
Metal Gear
Okay.
Solid.
And I did play those.
Now, Matt, what were your memories? What was your
Our
first
memories, we... Yes,
We the
Asking
people.
you specifically.
We.
Yeah.
Well, we got the system, I believe we got from Best Buy.
Right.
They had Best Buy back then?
They
Yeah,
did.
Thanks a lot.
They did.
I also had Circuit Cities.
Yeah, Circuit
Yeah.
City before they went.
Circuit City
yeah.
before they went under, yeah.
Yeah.
Shit, I even remember, what was it? Before Walmart. We'll get
Venture.
Venture. That's
Can
exactly
we not
what I
go
was
into like
thinking, Venture.
old stores?
No, but I'm thinking
Venture,
like-
which is now Target. Thank you very much.
John, do you remember Venture?
Venture
No.
didn't come to Target.
Yeah.
Basically,
Not
it's
at
the same
all.
setup. They set up their
That's
stores
like saying
exactly
Target.
the
That's
same
like
way.
saying Walmart
Why are we
became
arguing
Kmart.
about this?
It's the same setup. It
Pretty much.
Can we not?
Anyways.
Do I have to get the CEO of Target on the phone?
I saw
Excuse
him
me,
in
sir.
a commencement speech in college. The guy is a gigantic douche. I just like to say.
Really?
He's the only guy who said.
Well, that's on the internet
when I
now.
was in college. That's fine. Good. Screw that guy. Because he's sitting up in front of all these college kids saying about how he's beating the status quo and he was always a rebel.
Oh,
This
yeah,
guy
I
who's
remember
the
you-
CEO of retail.
I remember
who
you-
graduated from management
I remember
school.
you telling me
There's
about
the
this.
most least rebellious damn thing
Yeah, and
you could do.
he's like, I rose above it. Didn't he like preach about like not going to college or something like
And
that?
not
That's right,
conforming.
brother.
and-
Preach that. I didn't go to college.
don't conform and be like the man.
me,
Says
I rise
the
above.
CEO of Target.
Wow.
What a just gigantic douche.
I remember you telling me about that a long time ago.
Yeah, Sean, we're so old. We had to go to the next town over to have the luxuries of Best Buy and Walmart. So,
So,
Yeah.
anyways, back to our original question.
yeah,
We got the PlayStation from Best Buy,
right,
and we each got to pick a game.
right.
I remember.
And
you
don't
got
don't say what my game is because I'll fill in the backstory of that.
All
But
right.
go ahead and say what your
But
game was.
my first game, because I was a big wrestling fan at the time, was WCW versus the World. Awesome game. Had wrestlers from not only America, but Japan and probably Germany and some weird other countries. But it was probably for the...
Apologies to our Eastern Europeans.
Yeah.
Some guy in Czechoslovakia
you.
is like, bro, what do you mean weird? What?
And now you just insulted them with your accent.
It was a good.
We're drinking Moscow Mules later. It's cool.
Yeah,
It's not my fault. It's
With Russian standard vodka.
There you go.
Exactly. So, but WCW versus the World, excellent game. I remember you weren't exactly into wrestling all that much when I first got that game. You gradually got into it, but
Yep.
those were my first.
Yeah. Gradually.
Those
Kinda
were my
call it
first
much of
memories.
this
Yeah.
obsession.
Exactly. But that was my first memory of PlayStation.
Well, so my back history of PlayStation was a little interesting because at that point, I had pretty much given up consoles for games, period. I was actually really into PC games at that point, so I was getting the
PC Master Race.
yeah, that's completely true. You know, I was playing stuff like Doom and Heretic and
Jedi Knight.
yeah, I think Jedi Knight was out by that point, or at least
First
Dark
one.
Forces.
Yeah.
I have an
That's what I'm
honest
thinking, Dark
question
Forces.
because I haven't really gotten into PC gaming until recently.
Right.
But were the costs reasonable to what they are now, or was it that
I think
bad?
No.
Here, okay.
And-
I was in Best Buy. I remember because I first got into Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay, whoa.
Quiet down.
And I wanted to get Best Buy.
And I wanted to get the original Baldur's Gate. I'm
Right.
like, oh, cool, this game looks fun. And I'm a dumb kid. And I'm like, okay, it just runs on the computer. Well, no, we needed a video card for it.
Yeah.
And the cheapest video card they had just to run this game was like $600 freaking dollars. And the fact that my dad bought it blows my mind.
Now, see, the thing is with that, and he brings up a video good point, is he said video card. In the 90s, you hit mid-90s, that was like the birthplace of 3DFX, Matrix Mystique, ATI was just beginning to show up, so it was like all of a sudden the big buzzword was 3D Accelerator, and all these like revamped PC games like MechWarrior 2 were coming out, and like, okay, now you can get this card, and instead of 15 frames a second on Duke Nukem 3D, you can get 30, and it's like, I'm in DOS, and you're not using
And
any
that
like
was the
half the
time you had a
memory.
lot of companies going in, and system upgrades and system components were very expensive.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
I mean, if you think about it, when I got into computers, my first desktop PC in 1992, it had an 850 megabyte hard drive on it.
And that probably ran about $500.
Probably. I mean, that was like a top-of-the-line PC. It had a Pentium 100 megahertz processor, and I remember my friend crapping himself over that. Oh, I can play Duke Nukem 3D full screen on this. I can play Doom without a gun. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, for me, that was like kind of a shocker because, coming from console, from Super Nintendo, you didn't really know what a slowdown was. I mean, other than the occasional Konami game, it was just like, this is how it played, this is how it worked. And it was like, no, on PC, you have these resources, and if you don't have the top spec resources, you're going to be paying for it and slow down, or you're not going to be able to view like the total picture.
Today, you can have a pretty decent baseline PC for gaming. Baseline for like $500-600.
And that's thanks to consoles.
Yes.
Right, well-
back then, you're looking at probably close to $1,200, and that's in yesterday mid-90s dollars.
Well, and here's the question to all of you, since I am again the young one. Do you honestly think that console gaming has driven PC gaming? I know PC Master Race, you would murder me for that one, but do you think originally did console gaming push forward PC gaming because PCs couldn't meet up to what a console game would do, even on the PlayStation level?
I would actually say it's the other way around because
agree.
of your basis for games and everything else. I mean, if you think about it, Atari and Intellivision and that stuff, maybe they started the process, but they're already much more in-depth games like by that point, like Ultima and other things that you could get on your Apple II that just dwarfed. I mean, you didn't have, even take Zork, for example. Very, very, very basic game. I mean, it's just text. But did you have Zork on an Atari? Did you have Zork on Intellivision? No, because it couldn't do it. So in an aspect, PC kind of pushed console gaming because PC is such an open platform. You could do 3D. You could do rudimentary 3D at that point, of course, but you could do 2D games. You could do side-scrolling. You could do this because the stuff was always changing. So you could make new games where here's a Nintendo. It's got this, this, and this on it.
And
what can you do with it?
It doesn't get any better.
Right.
It makes sense.
No
It makes sense.
And back in the 80s and the 90s, when 2D was all you had to worry about pushing, console developers didn't have to worry about that. But then when you get into the PlayStation generation, you're having to take in, okay, I have 4 megabytes of video memory. I have this processor. This is how good I can make my polygons look.
Sorry, you can continue with your first game story.
Oh, no problem. No. It's a good question. That's a good question. I mean, that's a good piece of history there is how the business worked from kind of our eyes because, for me, coming off that console generation of Super NES and getting into PC games, like I said, I was playing Doom, Heretic, stuff like that, and it was amazing. So for me to go back to a console,
Transition.
it was like, why? I have this thing. Well, then I went over to a friend's house, and this was the same friend who saw my Pentium 100 and shit himself because we could play like Duke 3D and all this full screen. And he bought a PlayStation, and he had a couple games. He had Crash Bandicoot,
But the game that stuck me and went, holy shit, I have to get this system, was Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Ooh.
Because I was already a huge Castlevania fan from the Nintendo games and from the Super Nintendo games, and I saw it. I could tell it was a direct sequel from the last 16-bit one, and it was like Metroid. But in Castlevania, it was like, holy shit, like these two things together, like there's nothing like this on PC. Like this next generation. And then he's showing me Crash, and I was like, okay, this looks better than PC. Because at the time, again, like I mentioned, big buzzword was 3D accelerators, big video cards. The PlayStation had that. So I couldn't take and get the same experience with Crash Bandicoot that I could get on the PlayStation on PC, because to do it I would have to drop enough money to get a 3D graphics card, and for that I could buy a PlayStation. So there I went, whoa, why not just get the PlayStation? I mean, one of my biggest disappointments, big Star Wars fan, loved all the Star Wars games on PC. Shadows of the Empire came out for Nintendo 64. That looked pretty freaking awesome.
At the time,
it
yes.
looked great. Now we looked at it, we looked at it like, ooh, I played this.
Yeah.
It came out for PC 6 months after it came out for Nintendo 64. Sweet, I'm going to be able to play this. It's probably going to look pretty damn good. I load the demo up. I start it up. Does the introduction. I don't have to buy an N64. I'm going to get to play this game. Probably one of the only games I'd ever want to play on N64 anyway, I'm thinking at the time, right? All I get are these big blotchy graphics patches because I didn't have the video card that could translate all the different codecs and everything for it. So it was like, well, shit. How much is a video card? $400? I could buy a PlayStation and an N64.
One thing to note too around that time is very much the PC console split happened too, because you have very different games. You didn't get the kind of console games like Symphony of the Night or Crash Bandicoot, or that you just didn't have it on PC. The PC was for real-time strategy games and role-playing games and simulation games, but it didn't have side-scrollers, beat-em-ups, racing. Like there was a very different subset of games for each one.
Mm-hmm.
Even I would say the only overlap really you have is first-person shooters, which is where you get all the mouse and keyboard versus controller people.
Right.
Their constant battles. It really hasn't been as the last few years that, with Steam and everything else, that you could get console-style games on a PC.
Right, and a lot of those are from indie developers.
And I think that's why a lot of people too gravitated towards either the N64 or the PlayStation, because I miss these kind of games from consoles. I like these games. They might have been on PCs for a while, but now these console-style games you can play again.
You got the best of the old school and the best of the PC world in one, like the Red Book audio. I mean, I don't know if any of you have. The Castlevania soundtrack for Symphony of the Night is incredible. I can tell you what stage and what enemies are at by just hearing the tune. It's that good. So Sean, we'll go back to you. Getting the PlayStation from your dad.
Yes.
What was the first game you played?
It was a Ridge Racer, I think.
Oh yeah,
It was the first.
Yeah,
it was a very
Ridge Racer!
yes.
Type 4.
Yes. I believe was the first game, and for a long time, that was, I guess, kind of like my shtick when I was a kid, was like racing games. The Need for Speed franchise was pretty awesome. That was a big stick for me.
Need for Speed. And
Wipeout was good.
Most Wanted.
Oh yeah.
Soundtrack.
The original Need for Speed Most Wanted.
Was
the
cool.
one on the PlayStation 2 or PlayStation?
It was on PlayStation.
Was it on
there was
PlayStation?
Need for Speed.
Yeah,
It started
very-
on
started
on PlayStation.
Started on 3DO. Need for
Really?
Speed.
Yep.
Yep.
That's ridiculous. I played Need for Speed on 3DO, but not on PlayStation.
But yeah, that was the one game, I guess, that I played a whole lot once I actually got it. Was Need for Speed Most Wanted. It's weird to see them now. I guess there's a big trend recently is modernizing retro games.
Right.
So Need for Speed went back and took the Need for Speed Most Wanted idea of your car and you're being chased by cops and updated it because they have more processing power, more ability to do stuff, and that's where Underground and stuff like that came from. Go ahead.
One thing that kills me that they haven't brought back, because the Need for Speed Underground games were my most favorite Need for Speed games, period. Because it was like street racing.
Well, and that was one of the cool things about it too. And they did a really smart move, because they kind of almost coincided that at the same time that the Fast and the Furious franchise started.
Exactly.
Right. So there was a demand.
They capitalized on this. People were like, "Whoa, this movie's cool. This genre of street racing that I never even knew about." And then they capitalized on the kids wanting it and everything like that. So smart, thinking on their part. But yeah, that was probably my first. Yeah, Ridge Racer first game. Racing games were pretty big. Played my dad, because he got it for himself too. He tried playing Metal Gear when I was like 6, so I had no idea what the heck was going on.
God almighty.
Rick, your first PlayStation game, do you remember?
Other than the demo disc,
Yeah.
I believe it was Metal Gear Solid.
Okay.
I think I had Metal Gear Solid before Final Fantasy VII.
Okay. So Metal Gear, was it Final Fantasy or Metal Gear the reason you wanted a PlayStation?
Metal Gear Solid.
Okay.
That was the reason.
Now, did you play any of the other Metal Gear games before that?
No.
So what was the appeal to you for playing
That was the
this?
first time I ever saw... Well, it looked good at the time.
Right.
It was
Oh, it looked
good.
incredible.
It was cool.
Yeah.
And I thought it was the coolest thing that you could actually be stealthy and have silenced pistols, and you got to hide in a cardboard box. And it was... I just thought the setting...
Cardboard box sold!
Just the
Rick
setting...
enjoys
The setting,
hiding
the
in
concept,
boxes.
the gameplay, the execution, everything was just so new and so cool and so interesting.
Okay. Well, that's cool to see, because being a big Nintendo fan, I had it on the NES, and so did he. So when I got the PlayStation Underground demo disc that used to come out, we popped it in. Oh, what's the trailer for this? Holy shit! It's Metal Gear, and it's 3D, and look at all this stuff.
Yeah.
Look at how that blew my mind. So yeah, I was pretty pumped.
I'm gonna make myself feel really, really stupid to everybody.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't know that there was a Metal Gear before that was on the NES.
Metal Gear is interesting because it actually started out on a Microsoft Japan-only system called the MSX. Kojima made that.
Okay.
The one on the Nintendo is based off the MSX one. Kojima had nothing to do with it. They then made Snake's Revenge.
Licensing.
They then made Snake's Revenge, which was a sequel to Metal Gear on the NES. Kojima didn't have anything to do with that. And it was funny because I guess in Japan there was a Konami employee that was in the elevator with Kojima. And Kojima went, "Oh, what are you working on?" He went, "Oh, I'm working on the sequel to Metal Gear, the game you started." And he was like,
So what?
yeah, basically. So
Kill him.
Kojima was like, "Okay, there's obviously a demand for this, so I'm going to make a sequel to my Metal Gear on the MSX." So there was Metal Gear on the MSX and then Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. So it's weird because there's the Nintendo games and then there's the MSX games.
It's good to know that the development, licensing, and royalty is almost as much as a clusterfuck as the actual Metal Gear story.
There you go. Well, now it all makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
But yeah, so for me, that was a lineage thing of Metal Gear and what they could do with it in the 3D scope and how they could make it work. So actually playing that game, going, okay, yeah, I remember using the cigarettes to see the infrared, but it was an overview 2D look and like the codec and all this stuff. Like, okay, before it was just a receiver, but you still had the codes and everything to it. So it was really cool how they took all those original concepts and put them all together.
And then, that they were kind of the kings of Easter eggs hidden inside the game as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
or even having to think outside the box in order to solve the different missions and puzzles and stuff like that. Because I believe one of them,
Or stuff you'd never know unless you found it from a friend or a guide, like the
Or,
Psycho
yeah.
Mantis fight.
Or looking
Having
at
to switch your
yeah.
controller
Plug
from
in
port 1 to
support
port
two.
2.
Yeah.
and then isn't one of the codex numbers on the back of the
case,
box?
yeah.
And that's
Well, yeah,
the only
it-
spot that you can find it.
That was to divert rentals because Sony did not appreciate the whole rental scheme
They still
from what
don't.
I heard. Or maybe it was Konami, actually, who didn't want to do it.
Really?
Yeah, Kojima didn't want people renting it and playing it. So he was like, I know, I'll throw this on the back of it. And
See, people complain about DRM today. They did just as much shitty stuff back then.
yeah. How many video stores got the call? Yeah, can you give me the codec number on the back of your Metal Gear Solid case? Huh? Sir, don't call here again. Now, you brought up Psycho Mantis, which you were saying, you have to plug the controller into port 2 to get it to work and everything. One of the coolest things about that fight was the fact that if you played games like Castlevania or Suikoden and all that, and it was on your memory card.
I remember we shit
ourselves. Would he like say stuff about it?
You like Castlevania, don't you? All this stuff.
So, you like Castlevania.
Yeah. So, to bring that subject up, what I am alluding to is how many of you guys had a memory card when you first got your PlayStation?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, you had to.
You had to.
Yeah. Do you know how many hearing horror stories from people who did not buy it because they were like, "Oh, it's a video game. You just save it." Why can't I save it? What do you mean I got to get a memory card?
See, and I remember having to shuffle through and delete some, not copy some.
Well, and there was
all the little icons.
Yeah, because you only had 128 megs.
Well,
it wasn't even that.
64 megs.
I don't
maybe?
think it was like KB. I think it was like
64 kilobyte, 120 kilobytes. I think it was.
They were starting. They were really small.
Yeah,
but again,
the PlayStation 2 was 8 meg.
Yeah, and then as the PS2 got older, they got higher and higher and higher. And then I don't know about you guys, but one of the cool things I think about the PlayStation is that they did start almost this peripheral additions. You have the NES had the light gun, but you could they had the different controllers and stuff like that. You could almost
race wheel, arcade stick.
And you could almost personalize your PlayStation to how you wanted to play.
Right.
Which I thought was an interesting concept that, at least for me at the time, not that I was super huge into video games, because obviously my first system was PlayStation, was completely different than pretty much what everyone else is doing. Because the N64, I mean, you had the different colored controllers, but you didn't have different controllers.
Right.
Except for the Rumble Packs.
And the memory card's a really cool addition too, because if you had a friend came over and he was like, "Oh, look what I've done on my game so far," you could swap it. I remember having 2 memory cards because I was worried about him deleting my Castlevania saves off it. But he mentioned how much he loved WCW versus the World. That had a custom title belt thing that you could do. So it was like I would make 4 belts on my memory card and he would make 4 on his, and we would pit each other against each other, and you could bet belts. So if he won the match, it would take my championship belt off of my memory card and stick it to him.
That's really cool.
So you could have like double elimination, double title matches, unification. That was neat. That was like, all right, this is really different. And like, okay, what game could I have played at the time on PC that could do that?
Nothing.
And it's weird because they could have, but nobody thought of it because there wasn't an easy way to do the peripheral. It was the peripheral that made that. Sony was smart about that. We have a memory card, you could save games, but what else can you do with it? We could do this.
That's not true at all, because I know for a fact that on the PC, the QCat had a game where you could scan barcodes, and it would give you little monsters, and you could fight other people with the barcodes.
What game was this?
I don't know. It was terrible, but it used the QCat.
There you go.
if anyone actually remembers what the QCat is.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to hunt that one down.
Yeah, I think part of it, though, is anything the PC tried at that time, those peripherals or dongles or whatever, were just abysmal.
Yeah, it was way easier to... Trying to go through serial port just wasn't easy back there. COM port. Pre-USB, Sean.
There was a world before USB. USB 3.0 now.
So we had peripherals, we had cool stuff like that. So, Sean, what was like, if you could just think of a couple games on the system that were like your absolute favorites?
I love the Bandicoot series. Crash Bandicoot was big. Spyro was big. Those kind of 3D platformer. And honestly, when you bought the game, I mean, at the time, I was like 6 or 7, so I didn't really, think about the monetary value of it.
Right.
But it took quite a long time to actually, beat those games, even as a kid. I mean, I guess there
were a ton of secrets.
Yeah, there's a lot of secrets, and to get 100% completion on each one, which you want to do.
Right.
It took a long time. So they were good value, I guess, which is interesting considering, I guess, the more this whole DLC kind of market becomes,
Right.
the less you see of that. The more that they want to make you pay more money to get
Right.
more content
Right.
instead of just having all of the content already there.
Right.
But yeah, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, and then for the few of you that probably know this game, Dino Crisis.
Oh yes.
Um,
Capcom Resident Evil engine, but in a prehistoric kind of. Well, it's not really prehistoric. It's more like sci-fi.
It's
like
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
there you go.
it's Jurassic. It's pretty much Jurassic Park with that kind of. It was an interesting game. It was.
The game was hard as hell. If I remember correctly. The
yeah.
sequel wasn't even easier.
Yeah, they were. I mean, they were really hard, but it was interesting just because it was a horror game, but prehistoric, which is weird. And there really wasn't a whole lot of. I mean, you could play Silent Hill or stuff like that, but there was nothing else like that game.
Right.
And
Back to dinosaurs again. Dinosaurs keep coming up.
Yeah.
You missed it. We were talking about the '90s dinosaur show in the last episode. Wow. Yeah.
Did you ever watch that show?
no.
Didn't think so. Just Google the last episode. It's uplifting.
Yeah. You'll want to slit your wrists after.
When you say dinosaurs, like the first thing that pops in my head was the 3D movie that
No.
Disney
Oh, yeah,
did.
yeah.
No, I know what you're
Yeah.
talking about. You're talking about the TV series in the 90s.
Right.
I never watched it, but I know what you're talking about.
See, when I think dinosaurs, I think either that, Land Before Time,
Land Before Time.
or
The Flintstones.
Dino Riders.
Oh, yeah.
Could make that a video game.
Now you're busting out the old school.
That would be, they're gonna come back Ninja Turtles. They should really make a Dino Riders.
I gotta hunt
movie.
that shit down.
Michael Bay would hop all over Dino Riders because the whole thing is basis of strap guns and missiles and lasers on a dinosaur and blow shit up. Like that has
Can-
Michael Bay all over.
Can they
it.
have big gross lips that eventually get taken out later because
Yes,
their
those also
CGI
shoot
is
lasers. Yeah.
Nice.
because their CGI is terrible.
So any other games, Sean?
Yeah, again, the racing games. I'm trying to think of something that I actually had a peripheral for the PlayStation.
All of them, because you had a memory card.
Well, yeah, but I think the first one that I had an actual peripheral for was Time Crisis.
I was just going to bring that up. Yeah.
With the gun.
With the gun.
Yeah.
The only thing that was missing was the foot
I
pedal.
was just gonna ask, did it come with the foot pedal?
No, it doesn't come with a foot pedal, which
Is there a button on the gun?
Yeah.
There's a button on the gun, but were you going to say this? What you could do?
well, you can go ahead. It's fine.
You could take a controller, plug it in, and
And
use any of the buttons as your foot pedal.
Right.
So you can just step on the controller?
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds safe.
Yeah, that was.
And added to the realm of danger.
I'm waiting for a kid who's got it on the floor, is playing, and the cat just comes and lays on it. Like, no, Precious, no! Martin, you killed me again.
Okay, again, back to peripherals. Sorry to go back to this.
Oh, that's
Do you guys remember, just the weird controllers that would come out? I remember not just PlayStation, but Xbox had it too. I had a controller that had fans in it
Oh, yeah.
to keep
To
your
cool your hands
hands
cool.
cool.
Yeah. Well, they had those. They had the glowing controllers.
Glowing
like the
controllers.
neon
The afterglow
The
controllers.
grips so that the, gross, sweaty Cheeto dust doesn't slip out of your hand.
Oh, man.
Now, speaking of controllers, we'll get back on the subject of your favorite games, but when you got your PlayStation, when you guys got your PlayStations, what controller came with it?
Gray plastic.
Did it have the thumbsticks?
No. Mine was.
Yes.
No. Ours
did not.
I think mine did, but I also got it a year or two after it first came out.
I did not have the thumbsticks on it when it came
Yeah,
out.
same
And
here.
what did they call that after? Was it
DualShock?
DualShock?
DualShock.
DualShock was
Yep.
the original one. How it went
Hasn't it
was-
always stayed DualShock?
Well, it started as the just original PlayStation controller.
Right.
Then they went to dual analog, which it didn't have the rumble or anything.
And then DualShock,
then
which
they
had the
DualShock,
rumble.
which for Tomb Raider, and then Capcom was like, "Oh, it rumbles. You could be scared shitless if there's rumble in the game. Let's re-release it like Street Fighter. Here's the
With all the rumble.
yeah, Resident Evil Director's Cut, DualShock Edition."
All that means is when you put the controller down and take a drink, it just... I'm like, yeah.
Hey, Psycho Magnus used it.
He did.
He did.
I did.
Put your controller on the floor. Bend over. Oh wait, that's a different game.
Oh, games you're playing, like.
That's why I got a Japanese mod chip for mine. Never mind. Rick, how about a couple of your favorites?
Well,
His like what, 3, 4?
Final Fantasy VII I played an endless amount, which is probably the only Japanese RPG I've ever liked.
Now we mentioned this, or we were talking about this before. You had played none of the Final Fantasy games before 7.
No.
So what was it about 7 that you were like, oh my god, I gotta get this
remember
thing?
the cutscenes were really cool, and it was 3D and cutscenes. Even though looking at it now and just the polygon characters look like just garbage.
Right. So when you played it, was it what you expected based off of what you saw in the commercials?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
No?
I remember seeing it in like a few EGMs and that
Okay.
type of stuff though too. Though I don't
Okay.
think I saw too many commercials for it. But it was that Metal Gear Solid, which those are the two I pretty much played to completion. Apart from that, I have a bunch of random ones that Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver was fun, even though the ending was absolute bullshit, and I never played in the other ones.
That's a
It was
classic.
a fun game during it.
Like Mass Effect ending bullshit?
As in, like, whoops, we forgot we have this thing called the Deadline. We'll just do a sequel. Yeah.
So it just kind of stopped.
Yeah, out of nowhere, too.
Fantastic.
I think it had a troubled development cycle.
Yeah.
That was one of the first games, though, that looked like, well, a lot of games looked like very amazing on the PlayStation, but this one just
It
looked
did look good. I remember that.
incredible. They used some kind of streaming technology, so they didn't have to load anything.
And of
in memory.
course, you know, you're teenage high schooler, so playing as a badass anti-hero vampire.
Right.
Soul Blade is always the coolest. Vagrant Story, which I described as that game with box puzzles and you use weapons to hit stuff.
Right.
I remember you had to level up weapons individually, and certain enemies could only be hurt by certain kinds of weapons.
I think that's
So you
why I
pretty
stopped
much
playing
had
it.
to
Wow, that
grind
sounds, like,
out.
that sounds like some Simon's Quest stuff
to,
right there.
You had to grind out like very specific
It's like Secret of Mana.
subsets. of
Yeah!
weapons.
Yeah!
Other than that, any other game I know secondhand, or like I would see playing at your house. I have memories of eating Captain Crunch, playing Grand Theft Auto in the basement.
That was a half day from high school, and I was like, "You guys got to come over. I got Grand Theft Auto, and I got Captain Crunch." And so as we're giving ourselves
The best combo.
yeah, diabetic shock, giant ass bowls of Captain Crunch. We're playing.
Maybe that like Resident Evil.
Yeah.
I saw secondhand.
Yeah.
Silent Hill,
Yeah.
secondhand. I really didn't play too many other PlayStation games.
Well, once we're done going through our favorite games, I'm gonna hit you with the list, and
I might remember some. I don't know.
Okay.
But
Was the first Grand Theft Auto top-down?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Wasn't
now,
it-
was that originally PC or was that PlayStation first?
It was a
Because we played
it.
it-
was multi-platform.
Because I remember we played the PC version from the
PC
PC
Gamer.
Gamer.
Did it come
demo
originally
disc.
from another game? It was like Crash or Hit and Run or something like
I
that?
wonder if he's thinking of
Carmageddon.
Carmageddon.
Yeah, I don't. But no.
Carmageddon was a little different. Carmageddon was the whole point was basically running people over and blowing stuff up.
Right. I can't. I kind of know where you're going to. I know that the guys behind Rockstar saw something else and they kind of used it as a basis of Grand Theft Auto,
Yeah.
but I can't
Postal?
remember what it was. Maybe.
Or no, Postal was afterwards.
Was it? Yeah,
I
you're
think
right.
Postal came out afterwards.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to look because they talk about it in the Rockstar Games book that was done on them about it. But I think you're right. There was something that they kind of went. Maybe it was a game called Death Race. Something like that.
Yeah,
But it was
yeah.
top down. It was really old. It was banned. It was controversial.
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
was like
yeah.
in the 80s. That might have been it.
Yeah.
But quick question for you, since he talked about Final Fantasy VII being his first RPG. Obviously, the PlayStation was your first console. What was your first RPG then, Sean?
Final Fantasy VII was my first RPG. Did I actually ever beat that game as a kid? No.
How far did you get?
Not far.
Did you go back to it years later and play it?
Yeah, I've gone back to it and I finished it.
Okay.
And again, after we'd gone to Midwest Gaming Classic, I had the retro bug bite. So,
See, I was
Got it
I was
off
the
Steam?
disturbing opposite to the point where
no. I still have the original game.
Oh, do you?
And I have the original console. Yeah.
Nice.
I
So,
beat the game.
it's
I
in my
beat
basement.
all the secret weapons. I bred a gold chocobo. Like I did
Oh, yeah.
everything there was to do in that freaking game. I think I had total of like
Okay, Elite
98
status.
hours played.
Did
you have
beat-
Knights of the Round?
Yes.
All right.
That was
Hey,
one of
did
the
you beat-
coolest.
Did you have Knights of the Round? Get out of my house!
That was one of the coolest summons in the game.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, it was a badass summon, but even better is if you beat, was it the Ruby weapon that was in the desert?
I think so.
It was either Ruby or Emerald. One of the two. I know
Emerald was in the
related
ocean.
To it.
Emerald was in
Yes.
the ocean. Ruby weapon, unless its like tail was sticking out of the sand, like it was impossible to beat. And like it was a pain in the ass to beat in the first place. I think I beat it one
I
time.
remember Final Fantasy VII is legitimately the one game that there was literally nothing left for me to do.
And they added stuff from we got the better version of it. The ultimate weapons and stuff, they were not in the Japanese version. Later they released it as Final Fantasy VII International, and that had all the extra shit in it, but we got like the kick-ass version of it.
Yeah, and that was multiple discs.
3 discs.
Yep.
3 discs.
Yep.
Those huge, chunky CD cases.
Yep.
So Metal Gear Solid
Yep.
had
Metal
two
Gear
discs.
Yep.
But
Metal
it
Gear
was
Solid
a,
was
it was
2.
a huge case.
Yep.
I always remember, and I mean now it's not a problem anymore. But it's always funny. Like, please insert disc 2.
Yep. Yep. But I'm like 15 feet from my TV.
I don't know how you got through Final Fantasy VIII. I fucking hate
Oh
it.
god,
that
I got
game.
partway through that game and it was awful. And
I
let me tell
love
you,
that one.
See, okay, that was going to be my question. Was how many Final Fantasy games post 7 have you actually played?
I tried 8 and it was terrible, so I never went onward.
I
I've heard
beat
9
8.
and 10 were good, but
Post 8?
no,
Post
7.
7.
Oh, post
Post
7.
7.
8 was.
I
just
couldn't
garbage.
stand-
Well, you played 8,
I
obviously.
fucking loved 8. No one else does, but I fucking
I
loved
beat 8. I didn't like it though.
8, 9, 10.
I never played 9. 10 was with Titus, right?
Yeah, 10. Played 11, which was online.
And the whole sin
12, I
thing.
played for an hour and I didn't like it.
I can't
13,
talk because people said Legend of Dragoon is garbage, and I remember I
That
loved
game
that
is
game.
awesome.
I love that
game
game,
too.
but I've heard
I
people
have
say it's
it. I
terrible.
haven't played it yet.
It's basically Final Fantasy VII with spears.
How about it?
I mean, that's
Well, there was another one too that like people canned and it wasn't too bad. Legend of Legaia or something like that. It wasn't too bad.
I would say that because honestly, after I touched 7, I didn't really ever touch another Final Fantasy game until, oh god, well, like one of the crazy late ones that came out on the 360. This is when Blockbuster was still around.
Okay.
I had like my parents would always do like the monthly pass thing where you just go in and like exchange
Yep.
games. And I was like, well, all these other games that are here look like crap. Final Fantasy, people say that it's good. I'll pick it up. And I was playing it. I think it was the first one with Lightning.
Yeah, 13.
13,
Yeah.
Because so there's what 13, 2.
And 13.3.
Yeah, 13.3.
Yeah.
that's not confusing at all.
Um,
We're going with the Street Fighter.
actually, that's a lie. I played Tactics before
Oh,
13.
which is a great game.
Yes,
That's a very
and
good
that's completely different from any other Final Fantasy
Right,
game that's
right.
out there because that's
It's turn-based.
yeah, turn-based grid
Right.
combat.
It's funny you mentioned 360 because that's the first time I played Symphony of the Night.
Really?
It was on 360 when they released it on the arcade.
What did you think of it when you played it on
I
360?
loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt, some of your favorites?
Obviously, Metal Gear. Final Fantasy VII. Played the hell out of that. Tinko's Deception was one
Wait,
of my
what?
favorite games.
What'd you
Say
call?
that
What'd you
again?
call it?
Temco, sorry.
Tecmo. I heard. I thought you
Tecmo.
said. I thought you
It's
said
Tecmo.
Tinkles.
I heard
I-
Tinkle.
It's
Tinkles
Tinko.
Deception.
Who
I
the
always-
heck's Tinkles?
But it's Temco's Deception.
Yeah.
Wait, Temco?
It's Temco. I used to
Temco.
say Teamco when I was a little kid.
Yeah. Maybe he's right.
Tecmo?
Same guys who did.
Tecmo. Maybe it is
Tecmo,
Tecmo.
yeah.
Tecmo?
Tecmo.
Isn't it?
Same
Tecmo's
guys who
the
did Dead or
company.
Alive.
Tecmo's a company.
Yeah, but
isn't
that's
it?
what they called it. It was Tecmo's Deception.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of game was it?
Basically, it was...
Was it like a collection of games?
It was a collection of games, but basically you go into this castle, and it's a matter of setting up traps for the enemies that are going through there, and you're supposed to lure the enemies into traps, and if you capture them, you get special abilities or items, or your whole goal was to pretty much kill them, and you were the bad guy. They were coming
like
to
Dungeon
cleanse the
Keeper?
castle.
In a sense, yeah. You get betrayed by your brother.
That's an interesting
You
concept.
you get betrayed by your brother, and because supposedly you killed your father, the king, to take the throne. but that's all part of his evil plan to take the throne. So as you're being executed, you like swear that you like want to get revenge. So Satan actually offers you revenge for your soul.
Wow.
So
When was this game
this
came out?
was
This is very early
95,
on.
96.
Wow,
This
so
is-
that's like touching some...
Yeah, the ad, you actually, I remember seeing the ad saying, the warning, game contains satanic content, because you're working for Satan in this game. And at the end, one of the actual endings are you're getting all these people because your brother knows you're alive somehow, and these heroes are coming in to try to stop you, and you're capturing them in cells, you're killing them, you're sacrificing them.
Built the castle up. Too.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
could
So
build
you got like
rooms.
Iron Maidens, you got like spikes coming out of walls, poison arrows, setting people on fire, all of this stuff. And you're building up these magic points so you have more traps, and the castle's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And at the end, you can either elect to summon Satan back into the world and have him just like wreak havoc in the world. You can seal him back in, like all the stuff.
Jesus.
It was a long game
It
too.
was.
I think this is one of my favorite games too. So you can throw that on my list. But I think that was one of the games. I think I was working at the video store, so I was like 16 or so at the time. I played the game for like 12 hours straight.
Wow.
I started like 8 in the morning and like finished at like 8 at night because my eyes were on fire. That's a classic. Underrated classic.
Yeah.
You know what else is an underrated classic? The PlayStation version of Half-Life. You ever played that?
Was that PlayStation or PlayStation 2? I think it was PlayStation 2.
That's PlayStation
Oh.
2.
Yeah, still.
No, I played it at a friend's house.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I think you played it at my
re-
house, didn't you?
remember, Yeah.
Orange box.
I rented
Yeah.
it.
It was
with
Orange
someone.
Box. Yeah, remember?
That was a
We,
No,
PlayStation.
not Orange Box. Orange
Yeah.
Box is 360.
It was
This
separate-
was the
separate
original
release.
Half-Life 1.
Yeah, and it was,
was terrible.
It was
the split
bad.
screen.
Yeah, it was shit.
Anyways.
Remember the video store? We returned the game the same day we rented it because it sucked so bad, and they said that we stole the game.
Yeah, I do remember
It was
that.
awful. Yeah.
Why
it
would I
was,
steal this game?
Right.
No one would steal
No,
this
we're
game.
like, no, we returned it that night
'Cause
because the
it-
game sucked that bad, and we exchanged it for another one.
Way to go.
But
That's okay. No big deal.
another game that was originally PC that I remember waking up at 2 in the morning on Christmas Day and playing with you was Diablo.
Yes, because
did come
Diablo
out.
was custom for PlayStation. You could actually play it
2-player.
2 players.
And it wasn't
at the
too
same
bad.
time.
It was an
was
okay
It was
port.
really
What it
decent.
was.
It was.
Port.
It was. It
It was
really
a little harder
was.
to aim,
Right.
but
Which I don't remember. I think it was literally just hit a button and you swing.
Yeah.
Right?
Swing or you'd fire your
it
arrows.
was
whatever
easier
direction.
as either the
Are we gonna...
mage or the warrior, but it was really hard as the thief
Yeah.
or rogue, whatever they call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ranger? Warrior? Acrobat. Okay, I'm sorry. If you actually heard what I just said, that's a terrible reference to a really old TV show that I'm sure you guys might remember, the old Dungeons and Dragons
Yeah.
TV show.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just like a bunch of 80s teenagers.
Yeah.
Which
Someone did
you can find these on the internet.
someone did a remix of that to like put in the hilarious, whole 80s it's satanic type thing. Like they've recut it and dubbed it in such a way that like holy shit, the like little dungeon master guy is actually like trying to get them into Satanism or whatever. It's actually really funny. Yeah.
But
you
no,
can check that out.
the whole premise behind that TV show was that they went on a roller coaster, which took them to the Dungeons and Dragons world.
That's how it works.
All you have to do is go to Six Flags, folks. Bring your can of Coke, get in half price.
Find the carny that works at Six Flags in the back with the long hair and the wizard decal van, and you will learn Dungeons and Dragons.
Then you'll get a little something too on the side.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
So a couple of my favorites. Matt mentioned Tecmo's Deception. I love that one. That was a ton of fun. Metal Gear Solid. Lots of the Squaresoft stuff that wasn't Final Fantasy. Parasite Eve. Parasite Eve was... it took elements from Final Fantasy VII in terms of like the turn-based combat, but it was still real time. Even though you were still doing the active time battle system where you were charging up attacks ready to go, you could still move and potentially avoid attacks. Had a creepy thing about mitochondria where like energy and your cells and stuff was expanding and mutating people. It just had a creepy vibe to it. Another great game with some fantastic music. Another favorite of mine, Resident Evil 2, which is actually the first Resident Evil game I played. Just how big it was in scope with running through the city, being able to fight all these different monsters, the tyrants chasing you around through the city, bursting through walls and stuff to come after you. And the fact that you almost got 2 games in one, in a sense, because you had the Claire Redfield disc and you had the Leon Kennedy disc. That was another one
you
that came
played both
into.
of them,
And
yeah.
you played both of them. And yeah, they had similar stories, but it wasn't just, okay, you're playing with this character and it's just a different skin and that's
yeah.
it. Like, the paths actually crossed. You went to different places at different times. So it made for a really compelling reason to play both characters to realize just what the hell was going on. I mean, there's so many of them. Enhinder, which was a side-scrolling shoot 'em up game for PlayStation.
Shmup.
Really
I
cool.
thought that was a like Final Fantasy VII beat 'em up game.
No,
It was
you're
also in
thinking of
arcades.
Guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
my mistake. Mixing those
Mike knows his PlayStation games.
Soul Calibur.
Soul Calibur.
From that day, it was Soul Blade.
Soul Blade,
Soul
yes.
Blade, otherwise known in Japan as Soul Edge, and that was a blast. Different weapons. It had
I
weapon
believe it's known
master.
as Soul Edge.
Another fun one, even though I wasn't a huge racing fan, Sean, you might remember this one, Gran Turismo.
Yes.
That was
Lots
I
of fun.
love
That was
Gran Turismo.
At first, I would say I'll agree with you this on PlayStation, it was okay, but
Right.
when they started turning it into like a hardcore racing simulator,
It wasn't fun
It
anymore.
yeah,
wasn't fun
it
anymore.
killed it.
Yeah,
except for you people out there that really enjoy your simulators.
Right.
Oh, wow. We just lost all our viewers.
How dare you?
Yeah, I think that was a big separation for them, was that once they decided we're going to turn this, was originally almost, I don't want to say it was a Ridge Racer clone, because it was better.
Now, speaking of, was there 2 discs for that? Was there
Was
an
there
arcade
Turismo
disc?
Gran
two.
Turismo?
Okay.
2 had 2 discs.
Gran Turismo had, yeah,
One
Gran
was an
Turismo
arcade
2.
disc and one was a simulator disc.
Correct.
Okay.
Simulator, and then I think one had like the
One was the arcade racing,
Yeah.
right,
and the other one was
like,
the like simulator style,
Right,
like
yeah.
more hardcore.
And I never liked the simulator style. That's why I liked at your house when we were playing Wipeout. Like that to me was much more fun.
Another one of my favorite. Wipeout XL is my favorite.
Whichever one had the really good soundtrack. Yeah.
XL had Prodigy
Yeah.
and Carl Cox and all sorts of
That's
stuff.
when I went to Need for Speed though. As far because Gran Turismo 2, I think I started playing 3 and I didn't like it because, like you said, they went to the simulator. I think the next
Was that on PS2?
Which one?
3 was on 2.
3 was on. Okay.
3 was on 2.
That's so confusing.
And
Who's on first?
it was actually Underground was actually on Xbox.
Well, I played Underground on the PlayStation 2.
Was
Because
it on?
for the longest time, I had the PlayStation,
Right.
PlayStation 2, and then one of my friends showed me Halo, and I was like, oh my god, I have to get the Xbox.
That's kind of when we were on our conversion too.
Let's go down a random list, Mike.
We're going to go down a random list and we're going to play a game called Grill Rick.
Are these games I've played or seen or like?
These
what?
are
How do these
games
count?
that, because you
Or
own the
do I-
system, you should have at least rented or played, and if not, we're going to give you tremendous amounts of
Okay,
shit for
all
it.
right.
So,
It might jog my memory. There's some I may have
yeah,
forgot about.
yeah. Let's see. Ape Escape.
Oh my god.
Never played it.
Rick never
What?
played it.
Oh my god, that game was awesome.
Sean, you want to give what the concept of Ape Escape was?
Ape Escape was again one of those like 3D kind of platformer games, but essentially
Isn't
it
that the one
was
where they're in a ball?
no,
that's Monkey Ball.
That's Monkey Ball. And Super Monkey Ball. Ape Escape, you are a little kid, and you have a net, and your entire mission per level is to catch all of these monkeys that
Sounds so stupid.
It was fun, and you know why it was fun? Because it was one of the first games that absolutely required a dual
shock controller.
Yep.
Yeah, because you actually controlled how he swung the net with the analog sticks.
Okay.
It was definitely, it was interesting. I love that game. I played that for a long time too. Again, I like the 3D platformers when PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
Actually, both of those back to back.
How about Bloody Roar?
Oh my god. That was such a classic fighting game.
That was fun. You were humans that morphed into like wolves and shit. It was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Oh yeah, see, I was never big. I did have a Street Fighter game for the PlayStation, but it was never a big fighting game.
Oh, how could I fucking forget that
How
game?
about Breath of Fire 3 or 4?
Oh my god, Breath of Fire 3.
I mean, I did play the original Breath of Fire, whichever one was on Super Nintendo, not
okay.
the PlayStation
Oh,
ones.
Isn't that the one
man.
that's like $260 now? If you
It's,
were,
Yeah, Breath of 3?
No.
no,
Yeah.
no. I'm talking like the first one for
yeah.
Super Nintendo. It was
Okay,
like
yeah,
outrageously expensive.
Yeah.
Breath of Fire 3 was so much fun.
Bushido Blade.
Oh my God.
Bushido Blade, me and Matt loved. We would play that for hours. Did you guys ever play Bushido Blade?
No.
Another game by Square. Okay. Samurai-based game.
Shocker! I was expecting
I thought it was
New York gangsters.
yeah, World War II Germany.
A fighting game, but more slower paced, and you could actually disable body parts.
And it was
So
realistic.
by the end of the game, you could be like rolling around because someone cut your legs, and you could like kill them
It's
by
like that
slicing
scene
the
from
side.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yeah. Yeah.
"Tis but a flesh wound."
It had realistic one-shot kills if you hit someone
Yeah.
in the head
We
or
should
in
do
the
that
body.
for Gamer Logic Live. You guys would appreciate
It's
that.
a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Chrono Cross. Okay.
It sounds familiar.
sequel to
sequel to
Chrono
Chrono
Trigger.
Trigger.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Cool Borders 2.
Oh my god. Cool Borders! Here we go!
No.
Wait, is that
That was one you could unlock.
snowboarding?
Yes.
Yes.
You could unlock the alien as a character at the end.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
And
did
boss.
play that at my girlfriend's house at the time.
Girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in high school.
Yeah. That was a
Yeah,
fun
those
game.
pussies, Yeah.
I think
We
we
even
already.
played 3, too.
I think we asked you about the Crash
Crash
Bandicoot
Bandicoot,
games.
yeah.
No.
You didn't play them until you
I-
played it at
All
Shinra.
of them.
Right.
All of them. And I'm pretty sure people will probably yell at me for this one, but I'm not 100% positive on it. But Crash Bandicoot Racing?
Crash Team Racing?
Yeah, Crash Team Racing No, that was probably after Mario Kart, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Played Diddy Kong Racing. That was pretty fun.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, that's N64,
Not PlayStation.
not PlayStation at all.
Let's see, what else do we got here through the list? We're getting through.
Oh.
Here, there's Driver.
Yes!
All right, I got a story about Driver.
All right, everyone.
this
The
game-
story is I actually played it.
remember-
Everyone, you can just
Commercial.
leave.
No.
Just leave.
I remember the commercial. This game looks so freaking cool. Oh, you're like a stuntman, but a driver. And oh, it's so cool. I rented this damn game, and I never beat the you got to
The introduction?
The introduction you had to beat to prove you're good enough to do the job. I
my
never beat that
God.
freaking thing, so I
Wait.
never actually got to play the flipping game.
You said Stuntman, which has anyone ever actually played
No, I haven't.
Stuntman?
No.
Oh man.
To this day, I hate Driver with a passion because I shouldn't have to let me fail at the game. Don't let me fail at maybe you get to try playing our game. Screw
some
you.
of the driver games later, like 360 and PS4 and stuff like that, are actually really good.
I've never played the later ones, even though they look pretty interesting. Let's see. How about any of the Harvest Moon games?
Just the one on Super Nintendo.
You actually played the one on Super Nintendo?
Oh yeah.
That's pretty good, actually.
No.
Okay, you had the demo disc, so you at least played the demo of this, hopefully.
Prep of the rapper.
Intelligent Cube. You were the guy. See, this is
Sounds
when you started
familiar.
talking about Vagrant Story with a guy running around with blocks. All these blocks would come around. You'd have to make them green before they crush you.
Oh,
It doesn't ring a bell.
yeah, I totally.
That's an expensive game now.
really.
It's like
ring a bell.
$300, $400. We'll have to look that one up.
What about the demo disc?
Maybe if I saw a video of it. Maybe if I saw a video.
How about Jade Cocoon?
No.
It was a weird RPG.
No.
Jet Moto.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
No.
It's jet ski.
Yeah.
Jet ski
Okay, and
racing.
off the top of my head, since it's racing, Twisted Metal.
Yes, obviously.
Twisted Metal
That I
2.
played as
Well,
a demo at a kiosk.
Twisted Metal.
You played it at
really
least.
consider that race. That's not really racing though.
Well, it's cars that go rum rum. How's that?
Okay, here's two other games I remember playing now. Tomb Raider,
Okay.
and there was Armored Core.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I rented
that's
that.
another
I
one.
rented that.
You said Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, so we can't give you crap for that one. Lunar, because that was released so poorly. I don't think most other people played it unless they played the one on Sega CD. Medal of Honor.
yes.
Rick?
Probably the first person. I mean, it was
Yeah.
the first person shooter that I had played. I'd seen people play.
Wait, Medal of Honor is the first person shooter you played.
I'd seen people play Doom.
Wow.
I've never touched Doom myself.
But I'm thinking of like Duke Nukem and Heretic and Riven and all. Oh my God, that's all I used to play were those like shareware, first third of the game, first person shooters.
It's a 3D platformer. Medieval. You were a skeleton.
Played it as a demo.
Okay, yeah, same here because
Yeah.
they mailed it to me.
Gauntlet.
Dark Legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one. Let's see, we got just 5 minutes left here, so let's go through the rest of it. And this only goes to M.
Quality
They
list.
didn't make any games
What
with
was
other letters.
The PlayStation had a ban on the rest of the alphabet.
What was the other ninja game that I was absolutely obsessed with?
Tenchu.
Stealth Assassin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't play that one either. I know that comes as a surprise.
Shinobi was.
Oh wait, here's a list of N to Z. The podcast is saved.
The last 5 minutes.
N2O, nitrous oxide.
Racing.
Assuming it's a racing game.
I don't. Think
It's either
I
that or
played
a drug addict game. One
He
of the
played
two.
it. We rented it on Christmas.
I think
With Long Diablo. It had like BT and other tracks on there. It was the precursor to Rock Band. You would swim on the tracks. You would glide on the tracks and the beats would come up and you'd hit it and you'd finish a line and that
So
beat
it's like
would play.
Audio Surf.
Yes. Pre-Audio Surf.
Interesting.
Played Audio Surf.
I must have really not cared for that game because I do not remember it.
Yeah, I think you were like, let's go back to Diablo. Parasite Eve, we talked about that one.
Ridge Racer, we did that.
Rid Racer. I thought you played Resident Evil Nemesis.
No.
Stars.
No, I watched it played at my friend Sean's house.
Okay. Doesn't
Not
count.
me. The other Sean. This is riveting right now.
I know.
Silent
There'll be
now.
some edits done to this.
Yeah, what else will I say no to?
Yeah.
The question still remains, like, why did my parents think I needed a PlayStation?
Because you asked them for
I
it.
guess.
Hang
And
on,
you-
I'm currently breaking my thumb trying to get through all the simple 1,500 games that were released in Japan.
And you were...
Rainbow Six. Remember the first Rainbow Six game we played?
Was that PS2?
That was PlayStation.
Really?
Yes.
I got one for Sean because I know he owned it because he gave it to me. Street Fighter Alpha.
Yes.
Do you like Street Fighter Alpha?
Yes. That was probably like one of the only real fighting games that I actually enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 is the best. Did you ever play Alpha 2?
I don't think so.
Probably love the shit out of that one. Suikoden. Nope.
Awesome.
But now I know how you
Awesome
pronounce
game.
it.
Okay.
Suika?
Here's one I forgot about these, and these are actually pretty decent. Any of the Siphon Filter games?
Oh, God.
No, you didn't play any of the
That's-
Siphon Filter games.
That's those were like the stealth games, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, that was like what the competition was for Metal Gear.
No.
Right. It was and then
That was 818, I think, or
like
something.
Tom Clancy like kind of style
Right.
stuff.
Or before
yeah.
Splinter Cell.
Yeah, before
Was it-
Splinter Cell.
Was it that game that came out on PlayStation 2 where they did the 2-player mode where you were 2 different agencies and going against each other?
Yeah.
With the maps?
Yeah,
God,
it
we
was
had so
pretty
much
cool.
fun doing that.
Tekken.
Well, of course.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Rick, you were so close.
I do
man.
remember. Okay.
Okay, wait. We talked about
about
Final Fantasy's storyline being weird. You want to talk about like
It's
a
a
really?
fighting game. What do you expect?
Their storyline is
Play as like a bear. What do you want? I do remember it had really cool cutscenes for
It did.
winning the game. Those
Oh,
seven
yeah.
guys.
Tomba.
What the hell's that?
I think it's some game where you throw pigs.
Oh, of course.
Oh yeah,
That and Ape Escape just sound awesome. It's like the petting zoo collection.
Wipeout. We
Yeah, we
talked
talked
about,
about
Xenogears. Don't forget about Xenogears.
Yeah, that was another
a good game.
Squaresoft. And the list stops there. So you really didn't play a lot of games.
No, I didn't. Or I just saw people playing a lot. I think I saw the entirety of Silent Hill 2 at your house.
I think you're right, yeah.
It was just like, I was riveted. I wasn't even playing it. I'm like, yeah, keep going. I'll run for Pyramid Head.
All right, guys. Well, you got any final thoughts on PlayStation?
I mean, I guess I kind of have to thank the PlayStation for
that's
getting
what
me into gaming.
That's
yeah.
your roots.
Yeah.
That's your roots.
Yeah.
That was PlayStation for me was going back to my roots. For consoles, really was pulling me away from PC gaming.
My parents wasted a lot of money on an ungrateful child.
We're sorry.
And it sat there until I think I just gave you the games that I had, which I think the only one I still own is Metal Gear Solid.
And
I
that,
lost the other ones.
yeah, and that's kind of what happened with me too. Is that they just sat there because PS2. I mean, you could go back and play some of them, but not all of them.
You know, I'm also thinking too when that came out.
Yeah.
Is also around the time that I got into StarCraft, and I would play that like
there you
crazy.
go.
So I think when I first started getting into more PC games, which was StarCraft and Diablo 2,
is when
that's when I just shelved the PlayStation.
So you got pulled away essentially.
We'll go with that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
I would more or less say that PlayStation kind of brought us back together as far as playing video games together, because you really couldn't with PC.
It's true. We hated each other until PlayStation.
Honestly,
You done with the computer yet?
get off the computer. I want to play my games.
I want to play Mech Warrior.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I want to play Mech Warrior.
and then I got to the point where I was playing Counter-Strike all the time.
I was just going to say Counter-Strike and Team Fortress.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can start a nice 90s PC gaming episode, because I'm sure you could be like the question person
I will
for
be
that one.
all over that.
Yeah.
I'm
down.
I am
Chamber.
we'll do down for that.
Okay, that'll be the next episode, guys. So I want to thank you guys for coming over and recording this, because this was a lot of fun. The more people it seems to be, the better, especially when there's a nice range of age. Just that people be like, what? You did what? So
That was your first sister, huh?
so that's all for now, guys. Thanks for listening to Logically Thinking.